is now honorable lists, mentions week, lists week of the year week. Excuse a lot of things in this video. Excuse my hair looking super disheveled. I'm not done washing it yet. Excuse me kind of feeling a little sluggish. I just ate and then I ordered more food because I'm trying to be a fat ass right now. I don't really know what I'm trying to do, but it's honorable mentions of 2020. These are picks of mine that didn't quite make my albums of the year list, but I still thought deserved some mentions. I still thought were pretty good. I still think you should listen to. And while there aren't as many as last year, I would say these were really close to entering my top 50 this year. So without further ado, the first one is Big Shawn with Detroit 2. Clap it up for this man, all right? He released his best album this year. And while I don't believe it was the best album this year, one of the best albums of this year, I believe that it is a strong contender. Like, if I saw somebody playing this, bumping this, I would look at him and just nod my head like, respect, bro. I like this. Like, you got good taste. He seems so much more focused here. His content is a lot less corny. He seems a little bit more mature, and I like it. I mean, if this is where Big Shawn, you know, starts setting the bar and he can only go up from here, I'm real excited for the next project. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of Nas King's Disease, Hit Boy's production on this thing completely brought Nas to a different level, in my opinion. It's some stuff that you just can't get from anywhere else. And I'm really doing this mention here more for Hit Boy than I am Nas. I don't really care for too much of Nas's content on this project, but Hit Boy really put him in a position to be the best that he's been in a minute. And I just got to respect and appreciate that. And Hit Boy definitely deserves his flowers for the run that he had in 2020. Oh my God, this dude was a part of everything that I love. Boldy James with The Price of Tea in China. I know a lot of people probably anticipated this to be in my albums of the year list, and it was close. But there were other projects that came from Boldy this year that I think are better than Price of Tea in China. And while I really love this project, while I really enjoy listening to it, my introduction to Boldy was a really long time ago, and I didn't even remember listening to him like that. And one of my biggest issues with his delivery back then was that I just felt it was kind of boring. And even on some of the tracks with The Price of Tea in China, I still think it's a little low energy. But the content is there, the production is there, everything that you love about artists like Boldy James, being from the underground, being gritty, being witty, having these great one-liners, and also just having great lyricism and great storytelling. Also him being from Detroit is just something that you can't pass up on, so I have to recommend it. But it definitely isn't my favorite thing that he released this year. Lil Uzi with Eternal Atake. Y'all thought I was gonna shit on this album, bro. You did. And at first I was going to. Uzi is just the one artist that I feel has the most wasted potential. Like, he can go so far. I see Uzi so far ahead of the landscape right now. You have zero idea how high of a pedestal I have Uzi on in my head, because potentially he could go so many places, and I felt he kind of explored that on a few tracks with Eternal Atake. One of the things that I enjoyed most is how this album kind of explored choir trap. And I really think that's a sound that Uzi could have expounded upon if given more time. Now, Eternal Atake was a project that had nothing but time to just sit, but I think that Uzi, if he really tried to just develop a sound, develop an idea, and carry it through for an album without reverting back to those tropes and those trap basic things that he always does for the most part, I think he can go so far. Uzi has one, okay? He does. He has a classic, man. I'm not gonna let y'all, the haters, like, get me into the frame of mind of thinking that Uzi doesn't have that potential. He's got it in him. It just needs to be realized, and I think I have glimmers of it on Eternal Atake. Lil Baby came out with My Turn this year. And again, it's another album that people just assume that I probably wouldn't like, and I did. While I was working, I was listening to it. I'm like, hey, this just encourages me. It does. It's a very encouraging album. It's a very encouraging listen. While I don't think it's the best album of the year or close to the lists of best, top 50 or anything like that, I definitely can look at this album and see why people like Lil Baby. I saw his appeal in this album. I saw some charm. I saw some charisma. I saw some struggle, and I saw something in him that he was displaying in his music that made me respect him. Just like, wow, this dude has a goal. And he's in the zone, like on every track. He's just in the zone. Now, whether or not you like his content, or he may or may not be deep to you, or he may or may not have the best one-liners or the best bars, that's up to each his own. But for me, while I'm not focused on anything other than the goal that I'm trying to accomplish, Lil Baby in the background fits perfectly. Headie One dropped Edna this year. Flow is there. His delivery 100% is there. Y'all should stop sleeping on the UK. I think it's always been a great scene. I think it's been a great scene for quite a few years now, for at least as long as I've been aware of it. And yeah, I thought this was a good project. Rina Sawayama with Sawayama. Now I didn't want to like this album because going into it, there were already so many positive things that everyone that I could think of was already throwing its way. I only say I didn't want to like it because it's pop. You know, whenever I hear pop and like a lot of people are on it, I'm just like, oh man, this might be one of those. But I listened to it and I was really impressed and surprised with how well she blended pop with, you know, elements of grunge, elements of rock. This talent was super realized on the track Shut the Fuck Up, and I really love XS. I hope that means extra small, because if it doesn't, I'm really looking like an ass. I love like the grandiosity of a track like Snakeskin. I just think she takes that sound and makes something super interesting out of it. Lianne La Havas with her self-titled joint definitely surprised me this year. I first heard about Lianne maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't remember the name of the album I was listening to at the time, but she was standing in front of like some pink surface or whatever. I don't know if it was a plant. I don't know if it was a background or wallpaper or something like that. But I remember that album, and I remember a song that was like super, I won't say sensual, but it was just super comforting. Her voice was so subtle and soothing, but at the same time had such a strength, like an underlying strength to it. And that's kind of what I got for a majority of this record. I didn't think a lot of the tracks stood out. But I definitely love the consistency of this album, and it definitely stood like the test of time. I was waiting for it to get weaker or waiting for the project to kind of just fall out of my ears completely. But I find myself being able to listen to this project from start to finish majority of the time. And the only thing that holds me back from putting it into my top albums is just that I think some of the songs could break away from how soothing they generally are. I think some of them could just like explode or really pop, and I don't really get that too often, but the consistency and how well she sings, I can appreciate that. Drake with Dark Lane demo tapes. I know you're probably not shocked. I like this album, or this mixtape, this demo B-sides record collage. I liked it. When he's not trying, I think he's good. When he's not trying to be hard, when he's not trying to be, you know, the lover, the certified lover boy, when he's not trying to make good music, I think that's when he makes good music. It just comes off effortless. You know, I haven't been this entertained by Drake since If You're Reading This Is Too Late, to be honest with you. These tracks flow really well, in my opinion. I think a lot of them just they have Drake in a setting where it's like he doesn't know that he's performing in front of an audience, and there's no stage fright. There's no fear of what if I trip and slip up, so I have to be, you know, extra hard or extra cautious that they don't peer into my weaknesses or anything like that. There's none of that here because it's just so open. It's just so, you know, it lacks an intention to me. That's why I like it so much. It doesn't try to prove a point or prove anything to people. It's just flat out, these are some good songs. That's what I like about it. Spillage Village with Spilligion. I hope I pronounced that right, because if I didn't, I'ma just die. I like this album. I love the quality of the record. I know that sounds like a really generic thing to say about this, but the consistency and strength amongst these records, I felt kind of similar to with Earth Gang when they released Mirrorland. You can just hear how much effort each track took. And while I don't think the Spillage, you know, Village is like my favorite group because the styles vary so much between each member, I think they do really well to complement each other. I do think that they don't sound like awkward fits, but I think the level and the skill gap between the members can just sometimes make the tracks awkward fits. And I do think that regardless of that, a lot of these tracks are really good. They're really quality, especially tracks like Baptized.
You wouldn't understand. We not supposed to be here. That's not part of the plan. A man is just a man.
Down to Earth dropped I think this is an album called Atlantis. I hate the word vibe. Y'all know I hate the word vibe, but this album is 100% a vibe. It feels really isolated. I like how secluded so many of these tracks feel, like as far as what they sound very heavy. They sound really like weighed down by something, and it's called Atlantis, so it kind of goes with like this aquatic, underwater kind of wavy feel to it. His voice has a lot of reverb in it on some tracks, so it helps with this echo like he's got a lot of space around him. So I like this album like a lot. It almost made it in there. It really did. It was really close. Giveon with this Take Time EP. Giveon's voice is incredible. I don't have to explain to you why he has such an appealing presence over the tracks. He's just that dude now. Like, he's a great singer, and his production aids him in that. His production is really smooth. It takes no time to get into. His voice is really strong but soothing at the same time. I love singers that have that. It's rare to have that depth to your voice and at the same time be able to hit certain tones and certain pitches. So I love listening to Giveon, man. I think he's a great singer. He's somebody that I found out about, I think, this year. But yeah, I think he's great. Bbymutha with Muthalificent. She dropped another album as well this year. I don't think I took to that one as well. This one I think dropped in February or March this year, and I really enjoyed it. She kind of reminds me of a female Michi Darko. When I say that, I don't mean in vocal tone, but just the type of beats that he would rap over, the beats that I think he would sound most appropriate over. I think her flow is very South. I guess I shouldn't just specifically single out Michi Darko with that. She kind of does remind me of Flatbush Zombies, like the way she kind of flows sometimes. You can really hear it on tracks like Fuck Everybody. I think that's where I kind of liken them the most to each other. But yeah, I think she's a great artist. I think she released a great record this year. Amaraee just released the Angel You Don't Know, which is a fusion of like a bunch of great Afro pop music, and I think you should give it a listen. I mean, you can't really go wrong with this one either. Last year was Weird Volume 2. I would love to see what she has to say about this year when in Volume 3. And all I really have to say about this project is it being a step up from the last in content and maturity. And I think in sound she's developed too. There's one track on here that sounds a lot like Missy Elliott. So yeah, you know, I check it. Oblivion from Black Noise as well was a great record this year. I think my biggest highlight about this is not only the feature selection, but how claustrophobic I feel when listening to it. It's like the setting that he puts each of these artists in is so small, and they don't have much room to do anything. All the tracks have this really dark and kind of anxious feeling to them. Not to say that the tracks aren't smooth. They definitely have smooth tracks and rhythmic in some instances, but I think for the most part, having that lack of space just feels like when the artists do rap or they say something, it's just swirling around very in one little spot. And last but not least is the ReZero Season 2 soundtrack. These soundtracks are beautiful, and they really got me sad. If you've never seen ReZero, I would recommend you watch it if you want to be stressed out for an entire series. But yeah, I like this. Not only did I love this anime and love watching it for the most part, I really enjoyed the soundtrack that went along with it. A lot of these tracks are really beautiful. They are, and they have like a lot of pain associated with them. It really helps watching the show because you can associate certain scenes with certain moments, and you kind of are envisioning those moments as you're listening to the track. That may make a track that seems kind of happy feel really somber. But if you don't watch the show, I still recommend listening to the soundtrack. A lot of beautiful instrumentals on here. But that's how I feel about the honorable mentions of 2020. That's all I got to say. Not nearly as many as I had last year because I kind of wanted to just remove a little bit of the filler if I could, and kind of keep the stuff that I feel I would most likely come back most often to listen to. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'll see y'all in the next one, and until next time, I'm out. I'm about to eat some Taco Bell. Dude who dropped it off it's 4 in the morning right now, and dude who dropped it off came from like 2 other cities. I almost thought I was about to get rolled up on. I'm so happy I didn't. Tip was only $3-4, bro. Like, I don't know why you coming all this way. It's 3-4 in the morning. Like, what you doing?